We the people, we the people, we the people, we the people.
United States of America.
Brian here from We the People of Rhode Island. We're at Burnside Park in Providence, Rhode Island. Today is November 1st, Tuesday. What happened today was that Occupy Providence went down to meet Chafee, Governor Lincoln Chafee, and a discussion about immigration concept and immigration rights. I want to go around and see what people have to say about that. Also, I'm going to ask a question about what the Occupy movement means to them, and about what is the root of the problem here in America. Stay tuned with the people of Rhode Island.
So when you come down here, it's a melting pot of ideas and a melting pot of philosophies. But ultimately, it's designed to save America. That's what the goal of this is. And this is what many people don't understand. You know, if you go to a Tea Party meeting, they want you to all be pro-Tea Party. You know what I'm saying? If you go to some other kind of select group, they want you to be just pro that group. Well, down here, we don't do that. Somebody can come in here and say, hey, you know, I subscribe to Buddha, and I want to, you know, do the. We don't care. It doesn't matter. Do you have any ideas about the economy? Do you have any? Are you willing to help us protest this, that, or the other? That's all we're interested in. Citizens taking action. That's what this is all about. There's a difference between a discussion forum and discussion groups and what's going on here. This is an activist movement, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. I've seen people come down here that just want to argue with people. They want to just find out what their philosophy is and argue with them. This is an activist group, not a debating club. So people are here to take action, and this is where a lot of people get confused. So I'm trying to just eliminate a couple of the myths, if you don't mind. It's a little bit off what I originally was going to talk about. But you come here any day of the week, and they have any number of things going on here. Now the city, suppose there was something in the Providence Journal, the city supposedly approached the meeting at one point and said, well, we are aware that there was a level 3 sex offender in the park. Well, if they know that, why didn't they do something about it? You know, this park is open to everybody. We are not closed off to anybody. So you're going to get the regular Burnside crowd down here, which is here every day, whether we're here or not. The police will tell you, since Occupy has been here, there's been less crime, less drug dealing, less fights, and they have had to yank people out of here less since we have been here. So that, thing that we just have sex offenders running around here, that's just ridiculous. There might be 200 people here in the course of the day, and see, this is what happens when you're operating off of generators. The power just went out, which happens quite frequently here. I mean, all of this stuff is donated. Everything you see is being donated by people that believe in the cause. This is an activist movement. So one of the reasons why I took a hiatus from the radio show is because right now we're acting. Okay, we sat around for months and we talked about change and doing something and so forth, and then this movement exploded, and now we can take action. Now we have a forum that's not just in America but worldwide, from all of the civilized countries that were suffering from the economic crisis. They're all starting to wake up together. So that's what's going on with this. And I really wish that more people would at least defend people's right to free speech instead of trampling on it. That's the thing that's been most upsetting to me with many patriots. I see many patriots trampling on other people's freedom of speech because they're not going through their movement, their political party, whatever it happens to be. This movement is separate from all of those. So I would just wish that people would at least say, okay, I may not agree with them down there, but I defend their right of free speech. I defend their right of assembly. I certainly agree with a lot of their causes, because most of the socioeconomic injustices that are being talked about here were talked about at We the People meetings week after week after week. And that's what they're addressing down here by taking action. So I wish they'd be a little bit more courteous than they have been in some of the forums that deal with this particular movement. Yeah, and one more thing is, a lot of people are upset because unions are involved down here. Well, unions, first of all, they have donated, but there's nobody, to my knowledge, and I've looked this up, nobody is financing this movement. This movement is financed by donations. If you go through, you see the power just went out, this happens like 20 times a day. We run out of food, we run out of supplies every day. So this is not being funded by any one group. Now, this movement in particular is a movement for jobs. Now, it stands to reason that any political movement that's for jobs, you're going to have the unions say, hey, we're behind them. That's not a plot, that's just common sense, that the unions would be behind a movement that is out for more jobs. So, this whole thing that is just controlled and run by the unions is just ridiculous. Now, I know Brian, he's behind the camera there. Brian, you've been down here enough. You've seen a lot of union influence?
No, not really.
Okay. All right, so you see, we're operating in a shoestring here at We the People also. Brian, I heard that you were being financed by multinational corporations. Well, I guess that's not true, huh? All right, so, this whole thing that just, union, let me tell you, even Ron Paul says he's not anti-union. Everybody hear that? Ron Paul is not anti-union. He is against the power that unions have achieved over the years, which I think most people would agree with. And he's also against the fact that unions are now under more federal oversight than state oversight. And I think most people would agree with that. So even Ron Paul is not anti-union. So all you people that think that just because a union happens to say we're behind them doesn't mean that the whole movement is automatically evil because unions happen to be behind a large group of people that are demanding more jobs. There's nobody except sponsors. They can donate all they want, and there's been countless businesses that have done it, unions have done it, socialists have done it, Marxists have done it, Christians have done it, Jews, Muslims. This is a movement of the people.
Even We the People put a $5
there you
bill
go.
in the...
Even We the People put a donation in the box. So, it's not being run or controlled by anybody. Now, there's also some people that say that there's been social revolutionaries that have been behind the initial thought behind this or the methods that we're using. That may or may not be true. I don't know. All I know is, what difference does it make? If they come up with an idea that helps to create social change, so what? I don't see that as a big deal, whatever their past happens to be, whether they worked for Acorn or not. Everybody that worked for Acorn is not a Satanist. Everybody that worked for Acorn is not evil. There were some people just doing wrong things in Acorn. So just because somebody maybe from Acorn was into the planning of something doesn't mean that they're wrongdoers. They might still have some good ideas that can be applied to the movement. We might get some ex-cons down here, just got out of jail, but they still might have some good ideas that they can put into the movement. That's what this is all about. It's a grassroots effort of people, ordinary, average American citizens, disenfranchised American citizens, coming together to try to work on the solutions instead of just sitting home and complaining about things. Thanks.
My name is Jason Caldera. I live in Warwick, and basically what it means to me is people who are interested in taking a active active participation in democracy and want to help shape the future of where this country and hopefully the way the world goes, the global situation. Yeah, so that's pretty much what it means to me. People who are taking an active role in American society and global society.
My name's Marianne Maida. I'm from Newport, Rhode Island. The Occupy movement is for me a fight for my kids, my grandchildren, so they don't have to deal with corporate greed, so they can maybe have a simpler life and a more comfortable life.
I am Joseph Weiss, and I'm from Newport, Rhode Island. And the Occupy movement means to me, immediately it meant that America was waking up again, and that maybe we needed, 40, 50 years for us to figure out how to do it in the modern age and get together and make it successful. Because we've already had one successful civil rights era, and opening and Renaissance era. We don't want to do it wrong, so we needed 40 years to get it together. And so now we're back, and we're ready to equalize things. And we don't have to be isolationists, but we definitely have the skills it takes here, and we could spread it around more and be, like a couple of things here. Do the right thing, get lively. We need to use what we have as a society that's beautiful and so varied and wonderful. And we've elected a multicultural president, and this is a wonderful thing. It means that we will once again get things equalized and become more representative. And it's happening.
Tom Parati from Middletown, Rhode Island. Something I've waited 40 years for. I think the finger's being pointed in the right direction towards corporate America, corporate greed. The problem is deregulated, unregulated, unbridled capitalism. The fox is in the hen house.
Hi, my name's Ashton. I'm from Harlem, New York. And to me, the Occupy movement, from what I've gathered from my own interviews amongst the people, seems to be like a program or a movement that incorporates all the ideals of people who've been suffering similar disparities and have decided to come together and, formulate a community in which people have the motivation to go about acquiring change for themselves. Right.
My name is Spirit Wolf. I'm from the Arawak Nation. To me, what the Occupy movement means to me is that I see a bunch of people come together to try to find some answer for all these problems. And in between those people, you have a lot of people that knows where these problems are coming from. For example, a lot of people are focusing on the banks. But what the people need to be focusing on is on the Bilderberg Group, on the Rothschild. These people have been controlling the planet for a long time. So that's why I'm here. I'm trying to expose these groups.
What do you think the root of the problem is here in America?
My name is Scott Davey. I'm from Newport, Rhode Island. And I guess the question at hand is what does Occupy mean to me? It means finally the movement I've been waiting for. Right now, I think the movement, a lot of people have been asking me what I think the movement means right now, and I think what we're doing, why we don't have a focused aim. I think right now it's about education. A lot of people don't fully understand what's going on with our government, with the fractional reserve banking that we have, the idea of the Fed actually owns us and keeps us. I've been sort of aware of what's been going on for most of my life. I've sort of seen the oppression, the ideas of mind control so prevalent in our society. When I finally heard about the Occupy movement, I've been here since just about the beginning. I was in New York on the 6th day when this started. I've been in New York twice. I've been to Boston 3 times. I was there at the logistics meeting at the Common. I was there when we marched on the Fed the first night. I've been in this park since the very first day when we started to plan it. My friend Billy Seeds and I were the first people in the park, actually. I believe that for a long time the people of this country have been deceived. I understand the idea of the bloodlines of the people that really control this. When we start looking back throughout history, these are the same people that, paid for the Nazis. They still, furnish those ideas. I know that we are under a tyranny, that we are going into a very, very bad place. I very much fear the world that my son is growing up in. And I really just wanted to come down here and lend my support and my weight to the people and what they're doing down here. I believe we have a chance to really say something. I really want to get one thing that I'm a little disappointed. We need to start getting into some solutions. Me and a friend of mine have actually come up with an idea. I don't know. I'm sort of pushing for the same idea as the Central Bank of North Dakota has its own private central bank. California is filing legislation right now to save them from bankruptcy, and I think that we need to really start looking at some solutions, reinstating Glass-Steagall. I also feel that we should have a very much like in South Africa, the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. As we start to expose the corruption within these bankers, what's going on with the Federal Reserve, military-industrial complex, I think people really need to hear the human side of what's going on. And right now it's about educating and waking up a lot of minds. I've been lucky enough I was born free. I understood the corruption inherent in the system. I understood how we are weeded out from children with our public school systems to weed out those who think for themselves. I think that this movement is waking up a lot of people and letting a lot of people kind of know what's going on and giving them power of an informed decision. When we start to get enough people, right now we're still very small numbers, when we start to get enough people, then we can start forming some global ideas and some things, some counteract to what's going on. But if we don't do something quick, I fear for what we have left, and I fear for the world that our children are coming into.
Hi, my name's Chris Carnes. I'm from North Kingstown, Rhode Island. I'm here in Providence at the Occupy Providence. My stance on this is all about the Constitution. I'm here as an oath keeper and as well as a constitutionalist to help protect the rights of the people, no matter what ideology they have and whatever stance politically they take. It needs to be protected as well as, educated. So, the other thing I wanted to bring up is the criticism of the Occupy Providence and the people that are criticizing it, saying there's no direction. I challenge them to come here and actually talk to the people, because I see a lot of people. I see 2 people right now carrying an American flag around. These people are patriotic. They love their country. They may have different ideologies, but we are talking solutions through common ground. And most of the people around here are aware that our politicians create the environment for businesses to grow up around us and to actually make the playing field for smaller businesses harder for them to succeed. The precedent being set here in Providence, which I think will be a model rather than another statistic of police brutality. I appreciate the city of Providence and their stance on trying to do this peacefully and through the law. The thing is, though, if you put a curfew on freedom of speech or the freedom of assembly, you're setting a dangerous precedent for future protests where possibly another ideology may not get to share the same respect. So if we put a curfew of 1 month on Occupy Providence, what's to say that the Tea Party's next function will have a curfew of 1 week, then 1 day, or 1 hour, or 10 minutes. At what point are we willing to allow the government to control the freedom of expression? It's something that everybody should think about. That's about it.
I personally, I think there's a lot of different things, but for myself, I think one of the biggest problems is we have people on the people who are living, say, on Wall Street, who have a lot of who are very well off and are not concerned about what happens to the rest of the country and what happens to the rest of society, American society, generally. So a lot of unnecessary, a lot of greed and corruption, I think, is at the root of the problems.
Big box stores.
Okay. The root of the problem, I really think, is this sort of hidden agenda for people getting some kind of monopoly over the resources that we have. Even when we put up windmills, we can't have it service if a neighborhood puts a windmill up, they don't get the electricity. They have to buy it at the same price as oil. Things like that. We're just having all these kind of ways of losing our rights as people so that a very few people can benefit from it, when we should really be getting our kickback for being one of the most fantastic and successful societies in the world for years on end. And we got out of Iraq. We know that cost us. I knew it was going to cost us $1 trillion, and it will. And the problem today is that we have to pay back all this stuff that we had, but we can't sit and cry about that forever, when we can just duplicate that by getting everybody working together and getting more cutting-edge ideas about how to work again in our society. And
well, I guess I probably just answered two questions in one. But corporate greed. There has to be regulations. The other thing, actually, that occupied Providence, occupied Wall Street means to me is communication. Democracy is essentially a communication system. A lot of people are saying they don't have an agenda, to which I respond, well, how can you have an agenda if you haven't met, if you haven't talked? So this phase is about conversation. Democracy at its root is a communication system. Debate, argumentation, putting your evidence on the table, talking about it, weighing the different points of view and coming to some kind of a consensus or a majority vote. And so that's happening here. There's calm and there's conversation. It's very interesting.
Well, it's really hard to point out the root of the problem here in America, but I feel like the community of people who have gathered together have decided upon mentioning that the 1% is the root of the problem. And upon further research, that 1% reveals themselves to be banks and really large corporations that have, decided to, I guess, lead the country economically in its direction. And economics in a country like America is really important to in which direction it is, or the fate of the country's community or population. And I guess that's really what is the main target right now for the whole Occupy community. Aside from other problems like debt and the war in Iraq and things of that sort. Mm-hmm.
The root of the problem here in America is that America is owned by a group of people. Has been owned since 1930, since the Federal Reserve got taken over, and everybody thinks this is a free country. It's not. Still till today, England still owns this country. This group of people, they give you the illusion of choice, of left, of right, give the people the choice to vote for the Democrats, Republican, but basically they control both parties. And right now, actually, they want to crash the economy to bring the chip, the RFID chip, to have everybody chipped and control. So,
well, if we look at, I was a Mason for a short period. I was a Mason. I understood the logic behind it. I think that if we look at the Bilderberg Organization, we look at the Council for Foreign Relations, we look at the people who are at the very top of this, and we're not talking about the 1%, because even that's too large of a number. There's a very small amount of people that kind of control things. These people have been the same people that have been in power since the pyramids, since Babylon, since Rome. 28 of our presidents are related. That's just not a coincidence. When we look at, let's say, the powers of Bilderberg, the powers of the Council of 13, they're the ones who actually implement our policies. When we look at the Federal Reserve was established in 1913, and it is a privately owned, privately run organization that controls our dollars. It was Rockefeller himself, David Rockefeller, who said, "I don't care about presidents or kings, just show me the money, I'll take care of the rest." Paraphrasing. Really, when we look at their ideals are based upon gentrification. If we look at the Georgia Guidestones, they want to depopulate our planet. They want to secure their own future, the future of their children and their bloodlines, at the cost of us. I understand I moved to Canada. I was in Canada for 3 years. They're already 5 years ago. They were familiar with the Amero. Americans haven't heard of it. They're trying to influence us through our dollars and through our economic means. With the Amero, which would be a common currency for Canada, United States, and Mexico, would bring us to the lowest common denominator. When they institute that, we would be on par with the peso, which would make someone who's making $300 a week now would be making $35 a week. It's a form of enslavement. Between all the programs that they have right now, they only let us go so far. With our school systems, we're taken from when we're very young. They don't care if a child's fed. They don't care if a child's clothed. They care that you're in school. They have truant officers and all sorts of policies to make sure your children are there. Why? Because they take us with unquestionable authority. Your principal has the same powers of a warden. They sit us in our classrooms, file by file, rank and file, with others that look just like us. They put COs in charge of us, or what we call teachers, to hand out dead facts. Anybody who thinks for themselves or creatively tries to see different options or solutions are quickly weeded out. If you take 12 years of their teaching, well, you're allowed to go so far in society. 14, a little further. 16, well, you might be able to make a good living. 17, 18, they'll hand you the golden key to the crapper. It's not very hard to see, when to really kind of take a look at it and know the facts, that we are bred to be luxury loving. We are bred to be greedy. Our minds are controlled by media, which has been in partnership with the powers that be for such a long time. We are forced upon consumerism, forced on lust, to no longer care for one another, things that divide us all the time. A whole political party system with Democrats and Republicans, it's all just managed opposition. If they get us fighting amongst ourselves, we really can't begin to join and create unity with everybody. I think that a very small amount of people control so much of us, between police actions, school, religion, the political system, privatized prisons. We are headed so desperately wrong in our society. We really need to start rethinking, relooking at the way we handle things, and I think that's what Occupy means. We're at least starting to ask the right questions. What can we do about this? Who are the people that are in charge? And what would be a new way? Our society right now is taught to look backwards. Our forefathers did this, our forefathers said that. They were great men back then, that's wonderful. They never contemplated the society that we live in now. And we need to start taking new brains and new minds and new ideas and looking at very old problems. We no longer can be held up in the same mindset that has kept us oppressed for years. It's our own future. It's our own salvation. The only thing we can do is educate one another right now and stop brainstorming and really begin to change the system and look at all of what it is. That's my view.
Thank you. As far as wars go, we've been at war since at least 1917 in a perpetual war, which is funded by the central banks of Europe and our Federal Reserve. In order for them to continue making the profits off the people, they have to feed the military-industrial complex. And not one of these wars since World War II has been declared. And they're going around Congress constantly, and I think they all need to be ended. The troops should be brought home. We should not have standing armies. We should only basically stay with our defense of our country and not police the world.
I feel that people who are already here should be treated with the same respect and given the opportunities to hopefully integrate into society and integrate into the country better. For instance, if someone has kids who are already born here and they've been here for since they were 2, they should be treated as citizens, not shipped off back to wherever they came from. But I think that we have laws and we should enforce them in a humane way.
And as far as the immigration thing goes, I think that we should also pay back the Mexicans for doing a lot of our hard work. And they had a lot of this land in the first place. There should be some repatriation for them to have the ability to come over here safely and not get involved with the forces that I don't even want to mention that are so scary and evil that they have to be involved in to get over here. So it should be legal. And it should be part of repatriation for taking their land for cheap. And we should pay them back and also be able to work with them and so that we're not having this constant battling at this class warfare within the lower middle classes, lower to lowest middle classes, So anyway.
I support immigration rights. I know a lot of Irish from 20 years ago that were illegal in this country, and my own people, Italian Americans, were at one time illegal in this country.
Well, I can't say much about the immigration because I'm myself are from the native descent, and we didn't believe in borders. The tribes never owned any land. We never believed that we own any land. We never believed that we have rights to make borders and to separate one human race from another. So I can't say much about that. My opinion is keep it open. I mean, this whole thing is crashing down. I mean, to be focusing on that, I don't see no point in that.
Immigration is a tricky subject. My personal belief is that I believe people should try to go through the correct process. I mean, we are a nation of laws, and in order for us to continue on as a free society, we have to, follow the laws that are in place. That being said, I know that there are situations where children are born here, and under our laws today, they become citizens. As far as those parents that brought those children here, I think there should be a process for them to come clean anyways, and help support the society that they're actually living off of.
I think the president's move to pull the troops out isn't one that should be knocked down so quickly, Some families are dying to see their brothers, their sisters, their mothers, and their fathers. And, this shouldn't just be smacked out the way a bit, you know. I think the whole debate should stick on for a bit longer.
The wars is to make money. It's based on lies. I mean, the Iraqi war was based on a lie. 9/11 was an inside job. All the soldiers that are dying there are not dying to defend this country or to bring democracy. Those soldiers are there because they are dying for corporations, and the people need to know that. That's what I feel about wars.
The root of the problem, as I see it, is you have politicians being bought off by the bankers and the corporations that grew up around the central banks. We have a fiat money system, which is enslaving the human race. The jobs in America are going overseas because of the free trade agreements like NAFTA, and GATT. And yeah, that's about basically it. If we kill the beast, which I believe is the banking empire, I think we'll be able to reset everything to our de jure status.
I'm Joseph Owens. I'm from Massachusetts, probably the South Shore part of Massachusetts. But I've seen a lot of people come, and they all stand on the same grounds. Occupy means to them a new future, a better future, one where mutually people have humanity and love in their hearts. They share, they wait in line, and everybody gets equal amounts. Everybody's happy. There's no war between us. We all come from different political parties, but we all stand on the same ground. We just watched high-end executives pay for $500 dinners, one by one, storm in there, about 300, 200 of them. Ridiculous amounts. I mean, I don't even spend that a month on one dinner. It's just a dinner. It's sad that we don't realize that money and oil is the root of a lot of our problems today in society. You look at Tesla and you look at Edison and the difference between the two. One wanted free electricity and the other wanted to make business and proceeds off it. You know, we come from a place of giving and taking, but fairly. We just want people to have compassion and understand us and join. I've had family that just got laid off who's been in the business of banking for so long and done nothing but be faithful, and every day worked hard, always on time. And he has a girlfriend and child to take care of, and he pays a high rent, and now he has to migrate with his family because he got laid off for no good reason at that. I think it's unfair. A Marine in my family just had to get another car, so we had to take one from my brother, which meant my brother gave him one, and now I have to give my brother a vehicle. Well, if our vehicles were made with alternative energy, which oil wasn't sitting on, the car, like when back maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago or more, they made electric cars, but oil said no, that'll take away from our proceeds and our money. It's greed. We're talking about oil. We don't need that. We need oil and cash to get us off oil and cash. To start thinking of a greener route, something where we have a better ecosystem, we have better parks for people, we have better stuff, but not by money and greed. That shouldn't speak for it. It should be humanity. The heart builds. We build things because we want the people to use it. We don't want people to just destroy it, and people will when they start becoming oppressed. They will feel as if it's privatized. Everything's privatized. You can't go in and have a nice meal because it's way too expensive. That's not fair. When somebody can't go into a nice bar room without having to pay for an $8 drink. One drink that you can buy at a package store for $3, $2, but yet they're selling it for $6, $7. So the regular public can't get a hold of it. They're privatizing it. They're making it only for select few. That's not fair. I think that a lot of people would agree that the jobs that they do and how hard they work, they don't get paid enough. They get screwed. They get told by the man, by the executive branch of their companies, this is what you do, and if you don't like it, find another job. You're an employee at will. See you later. It's unfair. I think everybody has the right to have a job and work, whether you're disabled or not. You have a right to have a job and work, and they shouldn't garnish your wages whatsoever. They shouldn't tax you. I think we need to stop thinking about cash and greed, money and oil. Start thinking about a new day and age where we have alternative power, wind, water, sun. It's an infinite energy. And if we get on that, we'll start drifting away from oil. I know we will. And one day we'll see the light. We'll realize that back in the day when there was room for change and we couldn't have a say, now we're gonna have a say. And no one's going nowhere. We're only gonna push bigger and bigger. And the 1%, let's say, whatever you call it, the more they take and don't give, the more we're gonna give until we start taking. And I don't like to see that. I think that they can put foundations in for alternative energies, and the rich can definitely spend a few bucks on actually making it happen for the people, for our governments, for everybody, and not just be sitting on it for themselves and getting tax breaks. Also, police, I'm speaking up for them. They don't get paid enough. I mean, the only time they are getting paid enough is when they're listening to people that are pushing them around. The police are being oppressed. Our government is being told what bills to pass, what amendments, what laws. It's not fair in time. It's time that we the people speak up. And we need to start being educated on what's going on. We have rights too. Everybody has rights. And I think the government hears us, but they're just so thickly settled in the corruption of cash flow to help us out that they don't think, wait a minute, we can turn around and tell them what to do. We can pass laws that tell them what to do because we own them. They don't own us. We own them. The government, I want the government, everybody in the government. I want the president, the mayors, our legislative, executive, and judicial branch all hear me. This isn't fair. We speak too. We're not doing this because we just like to camp out. We're not doing this because we like eating poverty food, with whatever's donated and given to us. We're a low finance campaign. We're gonna make our name with low money, and we're gonna be known around the world. And I hope they can see us for what we are and wake up, America. That's when I say wake up, America. I mean realize that there's other alternatives. There's other grassroots to go down. We need to go back a few years and realize what mistakes we had made by letting big corporate take our votes away from us, by lobbyists paying students that have got their masters and everything else, go in there and say, hey, this is what they're paying me for, and this is what you guys had to pass. You didn't bring it up to the people soon enough or long enough for them to understand what was really going on. So a bunch of naive people got stuck dealing with the mess afterwards. And what can we do now but speak up? It's our right. And the First Amendment and our constitutional right will be kept. And the police are on our side. And I know they want to be. And the only reason they can't be is because the very few percentage paid them to take their side. And that's corruption. We don't need corruption in our system. We need a land of actual real people with real imagination, real minds that really want to come up with engineers and scientists who knew what they were doing in the past and want to get back to their work. They want to have land for themselves to create an ecosystem that works for everybody, to make horticulture mass produced so that we can start making progress. Sorry I turned away from you folks. I look the other way, but I see a lot of revolutionaries over here that I'm proud to stand near, and I want them to have a chance to speak to. We all have a chance to speak, and I don't mean to cut this short, but I will be having other conversations and other occupies all around the world, and I won't quit, they won't quit, so don't think we are. And to answer your question, Obama, to all these people, how can you make a change? We can make a change by our voices, our minds. They're a lot more powerful than the dollar bill. Obama, you can bail anybody out you want. You can help anybody you want. We love you too. But what has to happen is the people need to be heard, and things need to get done now. And I think that you need to give the people a chance to get into a government and fix what has been poorly represented. Poorly represented. If there can be a change, Obama, I would ask you of this. Let the people be heard with the people's mic, standing next to these people who love you, the people who care. They want to make a change with you. You said there will be change. This is our change. And it's going to happen around the world, and there's no changing that. It's going to happen so globally that these questions will be answered. These answers will be fulfilled. The sky is the limit. The sun is infinite. Our wind has a lot of power behind it, and our vocal cords. I've been using them a lot, so if I sound raspy or on something, I'm not. I'm just very proud to be standing next to a lot of revolutionaries who believe that we can have a brighter future. And I know we can. So God love the people, because we are the people.
Well, I'm Christopher Young, and this is Cara Russo. And I'm from Providence. I ran for mayor of Providence. I'm running for Congress right now in Rhode Island. Cara's considering running for Congress as well. And the Occupy movement, well, I think that these are issues that, we've brought forward over the last 10 years, involving Jack Reed, who took the largest campaign contributions from the banks and voted to deregulate those same banks while serving as the chairman of the Senate Banking Subcommittee that oversaw the creation of credit default swap derivatives and interest rate swap derivatives. And Jack Reed has not been indicted, neither Schumer or Barney Frank, who are the key some of the key participants in the collapse of the banking system and the collapse of the United States. This is a key focus that this group really needs to focus on so that the issues really are resolved when it comes to this matter. And also, there are several issues that these individuals have brought up, including student loan debt. I have been in the forefront of that issue for years now. There's a nationwide organization that I'm a part of that has participated in trying to reform the student loan debt crisis in Rhode Island and throughout the country by reestablishing certain protections for student loan debt, like reestablishing bankruptcy protections for student loan debt, which is one of the key components in reforming the debt crisis. And when they changed the bankruptcy laws in the United States several years ago, I was the one who came out and said what they were doing, and I was made fun of for bringing these issues out. And I knew what was coming, which was that by changing the bankruptcy laws, they removed the protections for students to be able to discharge this debt. And there really is a $1 trillion crisis going on right now with student loan debt, where students aren't getting jobs. And the reason they're not getting jobs is because they removed the trade tariffs that the United States had with China. And Jack Reed was part of that. Jack Reed has put China on most favored nation status, which allows us to have free trade with them. And then also they use slave labor to produce their products. And there's no tax on them using slave labor. So the Americans, the people of the United States, have to compete with slave labor. So they have to become slaves or lose their jobs. And that's the crisis. They're reforming, reinstituting protections like the Glass-Steagall Act, which protected us against this type of fraudulent banking that's occurred over the last 20 years. And since the deregulation of the banks in 1999. And there were other acts as well that these members of Congress participated in deregulating, and they took campaign contributions from the same people they were deregulating, which was illegal. And it's a treasonous act, and there's no focus here as to these issues, and that's what really needs to be addressed. Jack Reed needs to be indicted, and I filed the complaint with the FBI. I filed that several years ago. I ran for Congress for the first time in the year 2000, and I brought these issues out. The complaint that I filed with the FBI has been removed off of my website. They went in, somebody, the FBI, I believe, went into my website and removed the complaint I filed with the FBI. And there's this big blank space in between my press releases. And every time I post it back up there, it disappears again. So the FBI, especially in Providence, is refusing to prosecute Jack Reed, who had a key role in the banking collapse. And also, the key issues that this country faces, such as our competitive ability against nations that use slave labor, like China and other foreign nations, through these free trade agreements, have stolen the jobs out of the United States.
My name is Bill. I'm from originally from San Diego, California, and I've worked for various places like Haskins and Sells, certified public accountants there in LA. I'm now retired. I'm an old man, but I followed this issue for a long time. And when when Alan Greenspan lowered the prime to 1%, I knew that was 10 years ago. I knew this was going to end in a terrible mess, and it did. I was all over the web doing blogs on the political websites. But I have been for 10 years fighting this. I've even gotten a few death threats now and then, just for telling the truth. But I'd also like to say that Bill Clinton, after doing his job with Leach Bliley and getting rid of Glass-Steagall, it didn't go past me that his daughter was shoehorned into the hedge fund business. There were no hedge funds before the Leach Bliley Act was passed under Clinton. His daughter was shoehorned into the hedge fund. She was a hedge fund manager, married to another hedge fund manager, and their wedding was not publicized at all on television. Actually, it was totally avoided. People were not, and very little of it was mentioned on television as who were there. Mostly people who were there were bankers, the Hollywood elite, things like that. Go ahead.
Oh, and Jack Reed's girlfriend was working for Fleet Bank at the time of the deregulation, and she got promoted within that organization as she flew in Bill Clinton's helicopter with Jack Reed, and so there are issues of corruption here that really absolutely need to be investigated, and that's the key issue here. There's no focus as to indicting Jack Reed or even Lincoln Chafee, who took money from the banks as well. These members of Congress who took money from the banks and voted to deregulate those same banks and causing the collapse of the United States, which was an intentional agenda by people who took bribes and chose to cause the collapse of the United States. So these are the key issues that need to be addressed by this organization. On my website, wheretovote.com, that's WHERETOVOTE.com, you can see Jack Reed's campaign contributions. You can see how he also served on the Military Housing Commission, and one of his key campaign contributors was Pursuing Military Housing, and they're one of the main military housing outfits in the United States, and he's given contracts to these organizations as well. So there's issues of serious corruption in members of Congress. These people really need to resign immediately, and they need to be indicted. There needs to be a grand jury Yeah, absolutely. So there needs to be indictments here, and that's the issue. There aren't any, and these issues will not get resolved until the true causes behind them are resolved. And once the issues of corruption are addressed in regards to the increase in our national debt, then the American people can refuse to pay the national debt. And the $14 trillion that's on the national debt, we can just refuse to pay it and dissolve the Federal Reserve System and dissolve the debt itself. And the American people will not have to pay as much in interest as we pay for the military on the national debt. That's, we're currently paying, I think it's $2 billion a day in interest alone on the national debt. And that money could be going to funding education, funding jobs, creating business incubators. But these issues will not be addressed by a corrupt government that fixes elections, that changes the memory cartridges in voting machines, that makes the ballots, or a corrupt media, and a media that's owned by the same people that need to be put in jail. So the people of this country really have to understand that there are no fair elections in this country, that unless we return to a manual count on the voting system, where we count every vote manually, and a paper ballot system instead of an electronic system, like some countries have rejected electronic voting, such as Germany. I went to their Supreme Court and they've rejected electronic voting. Unless we get back to an actual about a year or two ago, they rejected electronic voting. The only way that we will have a freedom again is if we have fair elections, and we're not going to have fair elections by the same corrupt people that run the elections.
So we get the corporate interest out of the money in the election.
Yep. Well, until we get the
corporate interest out of the funding the elections for our legislators and our senators and our presidents.
I think really what needs to happen is the people need to revolt against fixed elections. That's what really needs to happen. The memory cartridges are changed. That's as simple as it needs to be done to rig an election. They swapped the voting machines. We have photographs showing that in the last election. They disenfranchised voters by telling them to show up at polling locations where their names won't appear on the ballot, violating state election law. The elections are fixed not just in one way, they're fixed in multiple ways by an organized crime syndicate, which really has taken over the United States. The only way that we're going to change this is by indicting Jack Reed, indicting the members of Congress who took money from the banks, then voted to deregulate these same banks while serving as the chairmen of these committees that oversaw the creation of credit default swap derivatives and interest rate swap derivatives. I'm sorry to be repetitive on these issues, but these are the true issues that need to be focused on. Also, what needs to be done is that we as citizens must demand fair elections. And the only way that things will change is if the power is really put back in the hands of the people. But the people refuse to see that the election process is corrupt. So anyways, when they make ballots, when they disenfranchise voters, when they swap the memory cartridges on voting machines, when they pre-program voting machines, electronic voting in and of itself is a corrupted process. And the only way that this is going to change is if we allow for a physical count on the vote again and a paper ballot system where we actually physically count the votes. And that's totally possible. There's enough people at these polling locations that can count up to 100 or 200, which is usually the number of votes that are cast at some of these polling locations. And even if it's to 1,000, I'm sure 10 people can count to 1,000. So that's the situation, and that's the only way things are going to change.
I'm going to speak just a moment to the economy and to our system with the Federal Reserve and the asset class in America. The Federal Reserve was, I believe, implemented in 1913, and it's basically, thank you, take care. Our system is a Keynesian system. Which basically allows for the government or the Federal Reserve to print money when things get really tough. There's an asset class in America which lives off cycles of the Federal Reserve. When someone makes money cheap, like Alan Greenspan made money cheap down at 1% was the bank lending rate, to stimulate the economy. This has gone over time after time after time. This is a cycle. And people who know about this cycle use this cycle. And I call them the asset class in America. This is a wonderful time for them to expand their assets, and always has been in any asset cycle. They go take their deeds and their spreadsheets for their factories or their apartment houses to the bank and say, hey, listen, mortgages are cheap now. I need another apartment house. Here's my spreadsheet. Here's my collateral on my other apartment house. And the bank says, no problem. We'll give you a loan for maybe 2 more apartment houses or 2 more factories or whatever. They say, great. And they take it and they begin to build their apartment houses or whatever, their factories. And they know what's going to happen because the banks know that they're too big to fail, and they know they're going to compete to the point where they make some really bad loans. And the federal government's going to have to bail them out through the Federal Reserve. And that means they're going to print money. And this is the inflation cycle of the Keynesian system. And they're waiting. The asset class is waiting with bated breath. I've heard them talk about it on the business report. What we need is a few more bubbles. They're waiting there for inflation to come on so they can pay off their mortgages that they just bought with inflated, worthless dollars. And at the same time, double the price of their rents or the price of their widgets that they're producing. They have, and basically get their stuff at an incredibly reduced price. They have done this time after time after time after the implementation of the Federal Reserve and Keynesian economics in America. We have a fiat currency. That's basically what it means. And this is why the dollar is only worth 1% of what it was worth in 1913. These cycles keep driving wealth from the bottom to the top. It's not from the top to the bottom. The people on the bottom who are salaried, when the inflation hits, they're the ones who get hurt. The people on the top, they get to pay off their assets with worthless cash. They love this. And this is a hole in our system that needs to be closed, and closed permanently, because it's unfair. And that's really all I need to say about that. Thank you very much. I'm going to call it a night. You guys take
This concludes this program broadcast. We the People, a freedom of speech television show. Go to www.wethepeopleofri.org.